Well, thank you. See, this is what the pre-show is for. My mic pack was on mute. You didn't miss anything, just me making noises to make sure that we have audio. So we should be good now. Let me know if levels are good and you can hear and see. Hey, Ricardo Neves. All right, we have audio. Good. So we've got a few minutes actually before the official start time, so we can kind of chat in the chat. I'm excited about today's show. Hey, Tokyo Tech. Hello. Hey, Lansky. Levels are good. Yeah, so I'm going to not talk about today's build until we really start, but it is one I'm excited about. If you follow me on social media or you saw the blog post, you have a clue already as to what we're going to be doing. First, I'm going to have a delicious sip of iced coffee. By the way, it is crazy windy here in Southern California. Yet again, it's been on and off. This is part of why our fires in California are so awful this year, these crazy Santa Ana winds. So if you hear things falling over in the background, I'm being attacked by Mother Nature. That's what's going on today. Olansky, what am I making? Oh, wow, Matambala, you're not going to have iced coffee at 19 degrees Fahrenheit. It's actually kind of cold here for California. I won't tell you the temperature because you'll laugh at me, but it's a little chilly, just a little bit. Let's see, other stuff that's going on. By the way, I had made one of these little docks the other day. This is the little dock the Ruiz brothers made to plug in any micro USB device or microcontroller that needs like a little stand, and I just pulled out a microbit to try something out with that, and it's a really convenient form factor. I need actually to reverse it so that the LEDs face backwards. I think you need to put the little micro USB connector one way for seeing the front of a circuit playground. I've got one here. This is my very rare purple pre-production model. So let's see if I line that up. Yeah, so this is, we have a different orientation of the plug. So that's forward orientation with the cord in the back for a circuit playground versus the microbit where we're looking at what is ostensibly the back of it because all the fun is right there, all the LEDs and things. It's also kind of upside down. But anyway, I'm really digging these little docks that the Ruiz brothers made on their 3D printing show the other day. So you can get that on Thingiverse. Check it out. All right. Well, I think we're close enough. So let's get started with the real thing. Let me give you a little workshop cam, and I'm going to move me. Stand by. Oops. That's not me moving me. Here. That's moving me to the corner. Ready? There I am. So in the workshop, in the background there, you can see a little glimpse of something. That right there. That is a very cool AT-AT model. And what we're going to be doing today is talking about this collaboration that I've just started with Brian Kesinger, who is an incredible artist. I worked with him at Disney Animation a number of years ago. He's an illustrator, he's a story artist, he does layout, and he has published a few books of his work. In fact, let me just give you a screen cap view here, and I'm going to pull up some of his work that you may be familiar with. Sorry, I didn't prepare these as little slides, but if I head over here to this screen cap view, and we do a Brian Kesinger. Let's go to images. So Brian has this great steampunk series. He started with tea girls. I believe these are painted with different teas. And then he, oh yeah, and my cursor is, oh no, my cursor is semi-okay. No, my cursor is always off, so ignore what I'm waving at. It's near what I'm waving at on this screen. He then has created this series called Otto and Victoria, which is a Victorian explorer and her pet octopus. And then he's also done these great Calvin and Hobbes Star Wars mashups that you may be familiar with. They are fantastic. They're the best. I love them, love them, love them, love them so much. Look at that. Come on. That's just great. Let me move that one over. Right? These are awesome. So Brian is an incredible artist, and Brian recently got into miniatures. So here is a look at, oh, I got to move this, this window or I'll go nuts from seeing my echo. So here you'll see this is a popcorn bucket from Disneyland, believe it or not. And I actually don't know, Brian, you might be in one of these chats here. If you are, let me know how much these cost. I'm guessing this is probably like a collector's $16 bucket of popcorn kind of thing, something along those lines. I looked on eBay and people are trying to sell them probably successfully for around 50 bucks. So Brian got into tabletop miniature, painting tabletop miniatures for tabletop gaming. And this game he's playing is Star Wars Legion, and there's another one, both by, I would have to look at my own blog post to find out what the name of the studio is. I'm going to get it wrong, so I won't guess. Farlight Studio, something like that. If anyone knows in the chat, let me know. So there's these two awesome Star Wars tabletop miniatures games that Brian likes to play. And what he realized is that the scale of this popcorn bucket, let me move that for you, is actually a really good fit for his tabletop gaming. I don't know that everything is always one-to-one scale in these universes. Probably not, because the figures would be tiny to fit inside of these vehicles. But here's another, move that. Here's another view of some of the miniatures he's painted down here. And if you saw back in this one's beautifully painted. What Brian realized was that this popcorn bucket, while an incredible model and hundreds of dollars less than an equivalent model that you'd buy for tabletop gaming, because that stuff's expensive, it needed a paint job. So he set to work, and this is actually some close to finished, I think, images. I want to show you a detail view. So Brian used some different ink wash techniques and dry brushing techniques to really just enhance the detail that's built into the model already. This is a really wonderful thing about painting models that are well sculpted, is that you don't need to hand paint details in so much as enhance the details that were made by the original sculptor, but never really enhanced or made that emphasized, there's a word I'm looking for, by the lack of a paint job. So really fun thing to check out. Just look up ink washing techniques or miniature painting techniques. Works great on little teeny miniatures. So Brian said, hey, I've got this miniature and I really love to take it to an absurd level and add some lighting and sound effects to it. Would you be interested? Of course I'd be interested. In fact, I have a list of people that I want to collaborate with just in life. I have an ongoing note in my Evernote. And when Brian said, hey, do you want to work on this thing together? I looked on that list to make sure, and I actually had him on there not once but twice. Like I had written him and then later I'd written him again. So really excited to get to do a collaboration with him. Today, I'm going to talk about what we want to do with this and do some planning of the circuit for it. I'm not going to dive into this model. Brian actually, his brother has one that's unpainted that we're going to dive into as far as drilling and such first before I do it to this nice painted one. So we decided to talk about what to add to this for cool effects. And so sound effects, there's an ion cannon sound, or the AT-AT laser cannon sound, and there's a walking sound. And he thought those would be really cool to have on the battlefield when he's playing the game. Also a button for lighting, so lighting up the little ends of the cannons when it shoots would be pretty cool. And then just to add to, I don't know if I have a good view of the front of this guy here, but we'll look at the real one in a second. Just to add to the cockpit, there's a little slit there where the troopers that man this vehicle would be. We thought it might be neat to have a little bit of like keep alive sort of flicker, not too bright, as Brian pointed out. If you make it really, really bright, it kind of loses its sense of scale. So we don't want to just put like a bare LED in there, but maybe a painted LED or put some holes in the back of the head and put a couple LEDs back there so just a little bit of light gets through. So those are some ideas. And then Brian said, hey, this is a chance to actually bring some music and drama to the battlefield. So what about doing the Hoth battle scene music by John Williams on this? And I said, yeah, this is kind of the only thing you'd be playing with, very likely, that's about as big as a boombox. So we're going to look at maybe putting in a large speaker in there, both for the sound effects and something to play background music. So let me head over to the workbench, and we'll take a closer look at the model, and then we're going to talk about how to get these sounds into the digital form where we need them, and then onto some circuitry that we can add to the AT-AT. So let's see, let me head over to the bench cam. I just had a surreptitious sip of coffee again, I'm sure you heard me. All right. So let me punch in on the top view because this thing looks beautiful. So there we have, get ready for this, the popcorn bucket. So how awesome, right? This thing has, it's kind of a dream as far as building a project because it's got a whole bunch of empty space to stick things in. So when we talk about what sound module and amplification, speaker, wiring, all of that, recharging, we have plenty of space to put those things. Famous last words, right? But it's funny, actually, when I started thinking about this, I'm going to go up here and grab something off of my pegboard that's way up here. Don't laugh at me if I fall. It's been like John Park does unsafe things on his show day lately. So you might remember this project I did about a year ago, which is the Lucio Blaster. Lucio Blaster I modeled off of Blaster from Overwatch and 3D printed all these separate parts and then put in lights and sound and triggers and music. So in a lot of ways, the things I learned doing this I might be able to apply here, but in some ways it'll be simpler. I don't think we're going to need lots of color changing neopixels, for example. But if you compare, let me flip cameras for you. If you compare the amount of space in here to the amount of space in here, there's actually more space in the AT-AT. So life is going to be a lot easier for this build, I think, than the limited room I had on the Lucio Blaster. So let's have a close-up. Let me see if this thing will focus. I want to show you just some of the work that Brian did there. And I'm going to tell this thing to stop auto-focusing if I can. Oh, okay, grab to focus. Okay, that's a good one. So here you can see this is the little cockpit area, and that just goes in like a, I don't know, maybe a 3/4 of an inch. So he painted it black. It doesn't have a lot of depth in there, so I think I may end up pulling the head off. It looks like it's hinged, so it moves a little bit up and down. I may pull that off if I can when I get the second one. Oh, it's got a, does it have a screw? Yeah, it's got some screw holes. You can see here. So I'll probably be able to open that up and take a look at putting my LEDs in there, maybe running the wiring through the neck. So that looks pretty simple. That looks pretty straightforward. Let's actually do, before we go too much further, let's just do like a little test. I'm just going to shine a little red LED into there. So I have some of these 3mm, these nice little 3mm LEDs. And I'm just going to grab a coin cell for now rather than wiring that into anything fancy like a microcontroller. Let's see. All right, so this is the best way to test LED stuff without plugging anything in, is just sandwich it around a coin cell battery. So you can see there, like, this is obviously coming in from the front, but even if I mask that a bit with my finger, that's very bright and probably a little too much for what we're going to do. So let me look and see if I can, without ruining the paint job, unscrew part of this right here. So let me flip to this overhead view. Or maybe not. Maybe I could give you that nice, is that this one? Yeah. Let's try to convince it to focus again. That's decent. Okay, so I'm gonna, if you're watching, Brian, don't scream. There might be some touch-up work on the paint job eventually here. So I'm gonna try to just take off these two screws and see what lies beneath. This is so weird. I need to actually tighten this screwdriver. This one has, it's a little pocket one that flips around between two sizes of Phillips on this end and two sizes of flathead on the other. And it needs to actually be tightened a little bit to not slide, slip when you're pulling it out. So the thing was slipping around on me a little bit. There goes a plane. So this at least will give us a chance to have a look inside. And because he painted it, I haven't wanted to mess with the joints, but it looks to me like all the joints on the legs, I don't think the feet, but the knee and the hip joint. Oh no, it looks like even, is there an ankle joint that slips? It may. This may be fully posable, which is pretty cool. All right, so what is that? What does that do? Does that let the head come off? I don't know that. I think that there's a chance that they've got glue, and there's a chance that Brian's paint job is making that stick, but I don't see that taking those screws off gave me, move this camera for you, gave me much access. Let's see, is there a top that comes off? No. All right, I'm not going to break that now. We're going to mess around with Brian's brother's AT-AT that's unpainted to learn things before scratching up this one too much. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about sounds. So I'm going to go to, let me set our AT-AT off to the side here for a second. So Brian had this Sounds of Star Wars book, and this thing is pretty great. It's got a sound module. I mean, on its own right, it's a great book about the sound design of the original, I think the first 3 Star Wars movies. Oh no, God, there's Jar Jar, so it goes further. I did not need to see that. So here I've put a bookmark in Battle of Hoth. So it describes how the sounds are made, and then it's got this little sound box over here, which is pretty cool. You just have 3 controls. There's a volume, but then we have these 3 controls for moving up and down in the numbers of the book. So if I go to, let's say, 108, and then press play, I'll put my mic near here. Okay, so they've got the, I don't know if these were like from original isolated stems of the sound effects. They probably were, because you don't hear a mix of other stuff going on. No one's shouting in the background. So these are mostly really clean sounds, which is cool. So you could mic that and bring that into your computer to then put on something else, but they've actually made it even easier for us by putting in a headphone jack. So to check this out, what I did, I just wanted to kind of hear these sounds nice and loud. I took a 1/8 inch phono jack, plugged it into a 1/4 inch adapter, and then I can plug that into this little guitar amp that I've been getting a lot of use out of lately for these kinds of projects. That's on. All right, let's hear it. Okay, that's awesome. That's the grappling hook or tow cable hit and swish. So the two key sounds that we wanted to get were the cannons on the AT-AT, so that's 111 here. Dude, these guys went crazy. Like, lay off the trigger a little bit. That's like 20 seconds of shooting. So maybe I may break those up into individual smaller pieces so that maybe you don't have to listen to that much attack every time, or maybe leave it alone. That'll kind of be up to Brian what he wants to hear. We have options. And then the other one is walking. So just, I assume, I haven't played these games, but I'm assuming that on your turn you use a distance marker, and that's how many millimeters or whatever, or hex units in the game, or however it's laid out, that a particular troop or vehicle can go. So when you choose to do that, he can hit this button and play his walk cycle, which is, I think it's on the previous page, walk cycle 107. Okay, that sounds like two different walk cycles, but I don't know, I'm not sure why they put those together, but maybe those we can break up a little. So those are the key ones, and there's a lot of other great stuff on here. So what I did next was I plugged that, actually left that on, I plugged that into a little USB audio interface on my computer. And I won't show you that live real time, just because I can't broadcast this, I suspect, while doing that. But what I will show you is what the interface looks like there inside of, let me switch cameras over here. So here you can see, this is what the interface for, I used Adobe Audition. But Audacity is a really similar and similarly named, yet free software that you could use for both capturing your audio and for editing it later. So I went through and recorded a few of those sounds, and then I kind of normalized them, added some gain to them so their levels are nice and high without clipping. And then I turned them all into 16-bit 22 kilohertz sample rate mono sounds, saved them as WAV files. And the reason to do that is the WAV files are what we can put onto the audio effects board, which I think is a good choice. It's a natural choice for this. Some of our Circuit Python-based boards can play WAV files natively, so that's another option. But let me show you now over on the bench. I've got, so our workflow thus far has been get excited about working with Brian on this cool thing, figure out what sounds we want, and then get the book, find those sounds in the book, and download them onto the computer, or upload them to the computer. And now I then took those, and let me go to this overhead cam. I'm going to move this for a second, sorry for the shaky cam. I think that's in, one second. My little button box does not have a way to clear that little face layer that I stuck on there, I think. So I'm going to do that one manually. How about, there we go. Get a little picture-in-picture action for you. So let me turn this into downshooter mode, and I will refocus. Good? Okay. So this is the audio effects soundboard, and there's a few of these Adafruit makes, and they're essentially a little flash RAM that you can upload WAV files or OGG files onto. And then you don't need to program this, so it doesn't have any need for software. It's not an Arduino, for example. It doesn't take CircuitPython or MakeCode. It's actually just kind of hardwired little device that it can be programmed with Arduino, I believe, if you have some really specific needs. But usually what you'll do is just hook up buttons to it, and essentially there are 11 or 12 pins on here that you ground. And when you ground a pin, it plays a sound that's named for that pin. So if you look here, in fact, I'm going to get even closer. I'm going to attempt fate and get real close and even zoom in. Yeah, how's that? How's the focus? I can't quite tell from here. I'm gonna hit that little focus lock. I find it? Yeah. Okay, so what I've got here is I've just plugged in a jumper wire that's on the ground pin, and then if I touch the 0 pin, it's going to play that sound, and I've plugged, there's a little headphone out, and I'm holding this in the corner view. I can't make that reach. Oh wait, maybe I can. I've got just a little powered speaker, one of these. You can't see that. I've got a little powered speaker, trust me. So here we go. Oh, I think the battery's dying on it. Oh. I spoke too soon as the cable was a little loose. So let's do that one again. So that's the going crazy with the cannons there, and then here's the walk cycle. And the little extra walking. Okay, so that is how we're going to do the sound effects, which is, let me switch this camera view to overhead there. So here you can see I've got my little, oh, hold on one second. I'm going to mute this. And kids get home early, I should tell you. In the real life of John Park, my son just got home early from school, and now he's loudly going to scream at his friends while they play video games, probably PUBG. 1 second. I'm going to close the door. All right, you can tell this is not pre-recorded. So here's my little setup, and this might be a good solution for this. So if we look at the AT-AT, it's, like I said, got so much room in it that while I could use a little Class D amplifier and then wire up one of these nice little 3-watt 4-ohm speakers, that would definitely fit. Let me move this into camera view. All right, that would fit really nicely in here. We could probably just set it against the back there or something like that. I don't think we'd need to drill holes for sound or anything. I think it's going to be plenty loud. Or we could, I'm going to unplug this guy, slip a powered speaker. Oh, it's making a noise. Why did it do that? I got this from DigiKey. Hey, DigiKey, why did that thing make that noise? Let me turn this off. So you could slip a little powered speaker inside of there, and be pretty straightforward and a quicker build than having to make your own audio circuit. So it just depends on if you want to sync one of these Bluetooth speakers, which is what this is, powered speaker, into your project, or if you want to, it'd probably be a little cheaper to make, use one of these little speakers, Adafruit speakers, and an amp. One of the sound effects, audio effects boards that we sell has an amplifier built in, so that might be the cheapest, easiest way to go is to, this one I think is just line out, but the ones that have amp on it you could use to goes just directly to your speakers. So a few options there. Now, as far as if you're just doing an audio only project, then you're done right there. So if you want to, you know, this is a Star Wars project and an awesome AT-AT, but you can expand this to any props that need sound, any toys that you just want to plus a little bit and add some fun sound effects to. So you get that audio effects board and you plug a power source into it. I think it'll run off of, what, 5 volts. Maybe it'll run down at 3, but it's definitely run at 5 volts. And you can power it off of a little USB power pack like you use for your phone, or you can wire a AAA or AA battery pack to it. So you're done there, right? If you just want to add sound effects, you decide what sounds, you put them on the board, and then you have buttons to figure out. So here's a bag of buttons that I've got, and I think I might be out of the little rubbery momentary ones. Those are kind of nice because there's no clicking sound. They're very easy to press. But these are kind of nice too, these little ball end ones. I don't know what we call these. What do we call these? Tactile metal ball, 6mm, 10-pack. So if you look at, get that centered under the camera. Oh, this camera's flipped around. Let me try. Ah, that's easier. So these are nice little clicky switches, easy to press. So depending on where we want to mount, oh yeah, the leg is definitely moving. Where we want to mount these, Brian and I had spoken about the underside has plenty of space. So if you look, you know, we could get maybe switches just under this area here that can't be seen. We could drill from what is the floor of the inside, some little spaces on that ridge there, and give ourselves access to the buttons so you can just reach under and press them and it's nothing visible. That might be the best way, most hidden. You could also put things on the back if you want and maybe try to make them blend in. Another idea I had was using an infrared remote. So we've got these little IR remotes. If you saw the AdaBox 006 unboxing the other day, this was something that came with that. And these are really useful for a lot of projects. So with a simple little IR receiver added to a microcontroller, you'd be able to control your sound. Now the audio effects board on its own is not going to do that. So that one just really needs a button, some kind of a button or a switch. The thing is, you can control the audio effects board from another sort of full-blown microcontroller. So again, if you look back at the Lucio Blaster project, I have an audio effects chip in there, and it is being triggered by things that a Feather or a Metro microcontroller are experiencing, either from tilt. I've got a couple tilt switches in there, or pulling the triggers, or flipping these. I haven't charged it in a while. Let's see if it's on. Yeah. So it's going to play music, right? So that's a Music Maker Featherwing or a Music Maker Shield playing MP3s. Microcontroller just tells it which song to play when I switch modes. Yeah, that's the mode switch. The trigger pull, that plays the... I wish I had a way to turn off. I never made a way to mute the music. So that plays sounds off of the audio effects trigger. So I don't have a way to do polyphony. I can't play two MP3s on top of each other at the same time on the Music Maker Featherwing or Shield for Arduino. So I can't do the background music and then layer in the effects. And I really love to have that ability to have them run at the same time. So that's what gets us into this territory where I don't necessarily need the switches to go directly to this. I could, or I could have them be controlled by the microcontroller, which is taking care of other things. So there's a few choices there on how we do that. So yeah, so let's take a quick look at, I'm going to wire up one of these buttons just so you see how easy that is. And let me reattach to our speaker. I will unplug this for a second. And I'll just get some jumper wire here. So what we want to do is, do this so you can see it. Oh, let me make this the big view, pardon me. I almost feel like I'm going to need to upgrade my button box thing because I have a couple more sources now than when I started. Okay, so ignoring the fact that I'm using red for this is ground. So I'm just going to run that ground up and over to the ground. Oh, I'm sorry. Got my fingers in the way. Up to the ground here. And I think those bridge across that way. So now I can take another wire and go to this button from ground on one leg. I hope I have that oriented the right way. And now I'm going to run the other leg of that over to, let's say, pin 1, which is for walking sounds. Now, we wouldn't put this stuff all onto a breadboard like this. Instead, we would... Oh, why am I not making that view big? Sorry. I thought that was the big view. Isn't that easier? So now if I go from the other side of this switch over to pin 1, which is our walking sound, if I got that all right, let me turn on our speaker and then I'll power... Is that on? I'll power up our board by plugging it into USB. Now it's on. Let's see it. Oh, I got that switch backwards. So I was just bridging it constantly. Okay, so now when we press, oh, there we go. You can see that now. Press this little round, lovely little button. That'll play our sound. I'll unplug that so we don't listen to all 20 seconds of it. Whoa! That speaker. That's the best. I love your little song speaker. Okay, so let's see. That's the basic idea behind the sound effects. Then for the background music, I have not downloaded that yet, and I don't think any songs are on this thing. So I'll need to go and find myself a copy of that song through some legal means. It's probably best that I don't play it on this, because then YouTube will mark our video as trying to violate copyright laws or something. But you can imagine Hoth battle music playing. So that I'll put onto either, let's see, here's the Music Maker Featherwing. And this one, I haven't soldered it together yet. So this one here has a little SD card slot, and that will go on top of one of the feathers. I don't know if I can run that on the Feather M0 Express. I don't know that we've written Python libraries yet, so if I did, I would program it in Arduino. But I love this Feather M0 Express, so it's definitely a board I would consider. And then this would sit on top, plug in like that, and then it can control the songs. We can also control volume either digitally or with a potentiometer on that, which will be useful. Again, that's something I didn't do on the Lucio Blaster that I wish I had, was the ability to adjust the volume. So I think that's what I'll be doing for that. I'm not going to do those here on the show today. This is just kind of a preview idea of what I'm building. This is kind of how my process works for this, is we spec out what we want to do. Then I just think in broad terms about what hardware could do those tasks sort of individually, and then start thinking about how will they play nice together. And then I'll go onto the computer into fritzing, which is some free open source software you can use to diagram and breadboard out projects. And I'll probably lay out an idea of what I think will work, and then build it on a real breadboard, and then build the real circuit. So that's some stuff I'll do in the future, in the new year. We have that to look forward to. But this is sort of how I go through figuring that process out. Then we've got lights. So I think instead of using RGB neopixels or dot stars, I actually don't think I have a need for any color changing with this. Famous last words, right? But I could do maybe one neopixel in the cockpit, or just one regular LED, and it would just need a piece of software on there that flickers it. Or this could be done with sort of solid state, discrete components, passive components is what I'm looking for, and just draw power off of the microcontroller. But so some options there for lighting. And then big question mark is, let's look at this a little more up close for a second. Let's go to this camera. Question mark is, these little cannons are pretty darn small. And in fact, if you look, even this 3mm LED, all right, I'm going to switch to this camera, sorry. see if it can focus on that. I think it can. This is a cool little down shooter. This has been a nice help. So if you look at the diameter of the LED is, I think, a little bigger or the same size as this. So I don't think I can drill out this soft little piece of plastic that easily. So I may end up 3D modeling and 3D printing a replacement part for that. We could probably get a little bit of an improvement there by using something stiffer, like just 3D printing it in PLA would be stiffer than this kind of rubbery thing, and then that would allow us to potentially print it in like 2 halves and have a little channel running down the middle so that I can fit a light pipe in there. In fact, that was something I wanted to try here. I don't know if I have any perfectly clear PLA, but I'm going to grab some translucent PLA and see if that will give us a little bit of a light pipe effect when we shine a light into one end of it. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. All right, so let's get some. This is some very old, I shouldn't be using this for printing anymore anyway. This is some like many years old translucent PLA filament. So let's cut just a little piece of it like that. And let's find that coin cell. So the question is, if you're not familiar with a light pipe, a lot of electronics that you use will have a LED on the exterior of the case that's nowhere near where the board is, just it's not convenient to place it there. So a light pipe is essentially what it sounds like. It's usually a little plastic, almost like the way a fiber optic works, a little piece of plastic that's going to bounce the light to where we need. So what we might be able to do is place the light on the inside where we have some space on the AT-AT, and then run a little piece of PLA through a 3D printed replacement for these cannons, and then we'll have that nice muzzle flash right there. And that might work better than just drilling a hole, because the light tends to bounce off of the filament or the light pipe. So let me see if I can show you that effect. Yeah, it's best on camera. You can't see this stuff that well, but you can see its reflection. So I'm going to get a little piece of paper here. So let me cut this nice and flush too. That helps. If you're just joining us, we're getting ready to make modifications to Brian Kesinger's amazing model of a popcorn bucket AT-AT turned into a gaming miniature. All right, so you can see. Can you see that? You see that little glow on the end? I'm gonna, you know what? Stand by. I'm gonna crank down the exposure on this thing because I can, and that will make this actually instructive and visible. So exposure. Oh, that's bright. Sorry. That's helpful. Okay, so you can see that little end light up there. Imagine my fingers weren't doing what fingers do. But there we get the LED shining through, and that's kind of nice. And it's not going to be super bright, especially because this is this. Let me set my exposure back to normal again. This is a sort of frosted piece. If we get a clear piece, it might look a little better. We'll see. So that's something to look forward to, and that's just, like I said before, a simple 3mm LED wrapped around a coin cell, 3.3 volt coin cell battery. If you're not familiar, by the way, with the sort of history of these little objects in the maker world, look up a thing called a LED throwy. And an LED throwy is this that I've just made here, an LED with its legs wrapped around a battery, and then usually a magnet and some electrical tape to wrap it all together. And people used to make these and then just chuck them up on the sides of metal signs and billboards and things like that as a sort of form of graffiti. But the LED throw, I don't know that we want to sort of send all that junk out into the world, but it's actually a very convenient way to light stuff up, and these last a long, long time too. So that's going to be the lighting for the two cannons, I think. And then let's see, what else do we have? So there's some space to get crazy. So there's a lot of space in the feet here. Let me switch you over to this view. So we have a lot of space in the feet there. There's a couple things that we could do. One, you could make the thing heavier by pouring some concrete in there and taping it off just so you have something heavier, put in some lead shot so that the model isn't so top heavy, especially once we get batteries and things up in there. That might be useful. We were also thinking you could do sensors in the feet. So if we want the little troops that interact with the model in the game, let me set this guy right here. If you, oh yeah, look at that. If you want to have the little troops interact with this, we could go bananas. So there's levels of bananas. You could put a Hall effect sensor, which is essentially a magnet sensor, or a reed switch, which is also a kind of a magnet switch, into the feet. And then when you place a troop member, one of the stormtroopers or a rebel, close enough, we could trigger some sort of a sound effect or something to happen. So that's one level of bananas. If you want to get really crazy, you could use RFID reading. So I think there are some small readers out there that you might look into. Ours is a pretty large one, but there's some smaller ones that could potentially fit into the feet there. Maybe. It could be a tight squeeze. Or you could do RFID up in this main area, and then you could have every individual troop have a different tag, and so you could set off different sound files. And I think we're going to put some voice files onto here that we'll also need to find online, the dialogue, or pull off of a DVD or Blu-ray. So that's some ideas around getting completely cuckoo with this stuff, which is a lot of fun. So let's see. Oh, as I kind of pull together the parts, so let's look at it this way. We've got I'm going to just focus on that little thing right there for a second. Oh, I say that, but it doesn't want to. Oh, that's because it's still in exposure mode. Hello? Maybe it's focused. So we have our sound effects card, which is just this blue part you see here. And then I think we'll have this feather and the Music Maker feather wing that'll play the background music on the battlefield. So those will be in there connected to each other. And then we'll basically just run wiring for switches and LEDs. The speaker will be connected off of this port here. So what about power? If we use a powered speaker, then it's got its own rechargeable. It's just kind of nice built into it. Or if we use a small amplifier or the built-in amplifier on one of these effects boards, then we don't have to worry about powering the amplification separately. So now we're going to draw everything potentially off of a 3-volt, 3.7 volt LiPo. So this is a nice big daddy 2500 milliamp hour one. It should last a long, long time in there. And the thing I like about these is that if you plug this into the feather board, it will power the feather board, it'll power the Music Maker shield. We can run power from that to the audio effects card. And these can be recharged, there's a recharger circuit built on here, so I can recharge that battery without unplugging it, which would be really nice for the AT-AT. In fact, I'm going to grab one of my little favorite extenders that I use a lot on these projects, which is a USB panel mount. You've probably seen me use these in a lot of projects. Here's one. So these guys here, let's see it there. This little guy will connect out to the USB on the feather, so we could program or power it over this. Whoops, make sure I'm plugging that in a little more firmly. Get in there. So we can plug that in to the board and then run this somewhere convenient on the AT-AT. So let me switch over to, I'll go to this view for a second. So if you look, and remember I said there's a lot of space in here. Look at how Like, this stuff is teeny compared to the cavernous depth. Sorry, I just showed you my hair. So we got loads and loads of space in there. But wherever we end up putting that, we can set our, can you see that? We can set our little panel mount right there. So close it up. That'll be right there. It just fell. That'll be sitting right there. And then we can plug into a USB port to charge the thing up when we're not in the middle of a battle. So I'm going to head over to the Discord chat. I can't check the YouTube chat on here and just see if there's questions. In fact, so someone said 3D print the custom model from the AT-AT walker. That would be super cool. If the Ruiz brothers are watching, you guys want to build one of these, then people don't need to get a popcorn bucket. It's a pretty sweet model. Maybe we scan it. Then C. Grover says, I've used multiple sound effects cards with a simple passive mixer, 2 or more resistors to get polyphony. Oh, you have you? Hey, that's interesting. So, yeah, EL wire at Northern Pike, that's also a great idea for lighting up this kind of stuff. And it has that ominous buzzing noise from the transformer built into it, which is kind of cool for Star Wars things. So, oops, how about that? I'll put the walker where you can see him. Come on, Brian, great job on that. So that's interesting. So if you used passive mixing so that we can have 2 of these audio effects cards playing stuff at the same time, whoops, yeah, sure. Oh, good. Now I can see if I can get that sucker to focus. Hey, focus. You know what? He's done focusing. What's your deal? Huh. All right, skip that. We'll go to this view. So if we have 2 of these, which are pretty small, we could have one that's essentially playing all the time. And we could have like a toggle switch. Flip the switch, and it'll just play that background music, and we can set it to loop. And then the second one would be playing our, I don't know why I didn't think of this. This is a great idea. So maybe we don't need a microcontroller involved at all. That would be super cool. I might try it that way. I like that. That'll be my project maybe over the holidays. I may have questions for you. You said you used some resistors to make that mix properly. So getting those to mix properly, I guess with 2 audio outputs to 1 speaker would be the key. And then I'll have buttons for the sound effects. The only thing then remaining, if we get a microcontroller out of loop, is we'll have the flickering to contend with. So maybe we use, I don't know, like a 555 timer circuit or something to do the little flickering of the LED, or we buy one of those little auto flickering candlelight kind of bulbs. Maybe. I don't know if they come in red. But the cannons. So what I want is to press a button and it will play the sound sample of our cannons. Let me plug that back in to remind us of the awesome. And then we'll have the flickering of the lights. So how do we get the lights to flicker when we press that button if we're using the audio effects card? I don't think we could set up the audio effects card to do any real outputs. Maybe. Like, is there a hack involved here? I might ask Lady Ada. Speaker on. Nope. There we go. Oh, wrong one. So I'm gonna rewire that button, since I only have 1 on here right now, to pin 0, and same button on pin 0 gives us. I mean, he doesn't quit. He's just shooting the heck out of something. So someone says use a trinket M0 for lights. Yeah, I was wondering about a trinket too. So if we have sound effects, that could be really cool. In fact, I have one sitting here. Yes, I was thinking this too. Great minds think alike. Who said that? C. Grover, always with the good ideas. Thank you. Everyone is. What a great community. Thank you, everyone in Discord. And I'm sorry I'm not looking at the YouTube chat over here because I don't have that pulled up on my iPad. But this little guy, all right, I'm determined to make this thing focus. I want you to focus. It has stopped autofocusing. I will just manually focus it by moving things in the physical world. So there's the trinket M0 next to the audio effects card. It's actually puny. Trinket M0 could be our answer, and I can have that run out to the audio effects boards, since we would have one playing music and one playing sound effects, and then it can tell them when to trigger what. Buttons would run to it, and then it can tell the LEDs when to blink and handle the flicker as well. So that would be super cool. Could write that in CircuitPython probably, which would be fun. That's been my preference lately, is writing things in CircuitPython over Arduino, because if they're simple enough and they don't need this extra speed of an Arduino compiled program, then it's actually a little easier to program and much faster to iterate on. So let's see, we have just a little bit of time left here today. We're going to end at 2. We have 10 minutes. So let's see. Yeah, so Philip Moyer says in the chat, maybe warm white would be good for the operator's station rather than red. Brian said that there's actually no moment in Empire when there's any lighting inside the cockpit, so it's only in sort of, I don't know if they're in canon or not, but in games and paintings and illustrations and things later where he said that he's seen some red lighting in there. But yeah, if we want to have choices, then we could definitely use a NeoPixel or a dot star. Or we could be crazy and move the trinket really close up there and use, there's a dot star built onto the trinket, but probably not the best way to do that. It'd be easier to run a wire. So let's see, where does that leave us? So that's the stuff I'm going to be working on. I'll put together, I think I'm going to go with that. I love that idea of that circuit of doing 2 trinkets, so I'm going to play around with that over the break. And if you have other ideas, please pop up in the Discord chat or on the YouTube. We're interested in hearing what else you think would be fun to do to plus this thing out. And I'll do a further, I'll do a guide on this. I'll build a written tutorial, so if people want to go to Disneyland or Disney World and get yourself a popcorn bucket, I think it's an hour line or something like that to get them, but they're pretty cheap, and add that. You'll have the guide to it, and maybe we'll find there's probably some 3D models out there you could print as well, or maybe we'll convince the Ruiz brothers to print, to build a model that we can print. So let's see. One thing I'll mention about using the trinket is that I would need to add a charging circuit if I want to recharge the batteries without taking them off. This one's kind of big for the job, but I will mention for a lot of the mystery boxes that I've built for escape room type of stuff, I've been a big fan of this. I know it's a big circuit compared to some of our other chargers, but these can do fast charging on large batteries. You can run the load so that JST can go out to your trinket, and then you plug in a USB on this end to charge it. These are pretty cool, but we can definitely, especially if we don't need to worry about fast charging, we can get away with some of those. Let's see, here's a teeny battery. You don't need something that small for this project, but look how cute that is. And then, where is a LiPo chargers? I have a drawer of them. So this one, I think we could use this. This is the little Pro Trinket LiPo backpack. And I bet this could actually be grafted on neatly onto the Trinket M0. And so that provides power to this board, and the battery goes in here, and then we can charge this one. Can we charge this one? Wait, I'm going crazy. I don't remember how we charge that one off of there. There's another choice, right? This one. Micro LiPo with USB. I think this one's a better choice because it actually has the USB built on there, which is the point. Okay. So that one there, we could power everything off of it. Battery goes there, and we can, it's got a little charging circuit on there. So those will be the options. So look for that. Look for either on Adafruit site, blog, social media, etc. You will find info about that. And I'll be, maybe I can bring Brian on here when we get to the point where we're putting this thing together. That'll be kind of fun. And if you're interested, check out Brian's stuff, Brian Kesinger, on pretty much all social media to see some of the behind the scenes of him painting this up. And I think that's pretty much it for me. Let's show off this AT-AT again for a second. I'll put him in the medium overhead. There that is. And then I'm going to head over to chat on my computer where I can actually chat with YouTube as well. So, hey, look, there I am. And, whoops, that's not what I meant to do. There is, yes, powering the effects boards too. Okay, I got a lot to think about here. There's nuances. And in fact, if you go and check out, oh, that's kind of neat, wireless charging, inductive charger, that'd be fun. If you check out the Lucio Blaster, the learning guides that I did on the Lucio Blaster at learn.adafruit.com, I have been here before, so there's definitely a lot. I will go refresh myself about how I distributed power around and stuff. It was super, super involved. The sound effects board, Bravo Delta, is I think that's just the 2 meg Adafruit audio effects board. Maybe someone in the chat can paste that. And the one that I was using, or I was thinking of using for music, is the Music Maker Featherwing, which can play MP3s. By the way, it can also play MIDI, and I just started playing with that. For some reason, I got interested in doing MIDI off of this, so look for that in the future too. I might try to make like a little MIDI sequencer or something using the Feather and the Music Maker Shield. It's an underutilized aspect. Colin Cunningham and I were talking about this yesterday. It's a great shield, and the fact that what VS1053B I think is the chip. The fact that that does the decoding of all these audio formats is amazing, and that's the kind of most useful thing. But it does have a little MIDI sort of set of instruments, like 100 and some instruments on there and drums, and you can trigger those with different MIDI devices. So. In fact, bringing some things full circle back to Disney, because Brian and I worked together at Disney Animation. That's how we first met. And bringing things back to full circle to Disney, if you can see this thing, I'm going to pull some wires to show it. Does that unplug? It does not. This is a really old animation controller that was being thrown away. We had a closet of stuff that just got, man, this thing is dusty. We had a closet of stuff that was just being sent to recycling, electronics recycling, purgatory or whatever. And I asked if I could have this. Someone said, sure. So this is a MIDI controller that has, it was used for playback in the 2D days to watch in reviews. The review machines had fast forward, back, stop, play forward, play back, and then you could do jog sort of scrubbing, and this would switch modes here, option and shift that you could do. So those were all MIDI, and so I'm thinking it would be kind of fun to turn that into a MIDI audio sequencer or audio playback device of some kind. So Nis says there's a lot of MIDI on old website hosts like GeoCities. Oh, yeah, playing MIDI in your browsers. Those were great. Those sounded good, huh? Let's see. All right. Well, I think we're just about out of time, and I want to thank you all so much. I wish I could have done a recap show. Noe and Pedro did an awesome recap show of all the projects they did over the year. I will do a real quick sort of version of that. Let me open up a new browser window, and I'll just show you if I... Let's see, I'm going to make this on the fly. I could end up crashing. Let's see, I'm going to make a screen capture on the fly, new of a window, and I'll select the window, and it'll be that. Okay, and I'll switch to that shot. So this ends up being cleaner than me pointing at a page. So if we go to learn.adafruit.com, and I'll go to one of my projects. If you click on any author name in Learn, you'll get the projects from that author. So I don't know which one I did before the last year, but these going from most recent backwards are some of the projects I did this year. So all of these top 3 were for our AdaBox 006, so check those out. And you can get the AdaBox 06 in the sorry, you can get, I just got distracted. So my mind just melt. You can get AdaBox 06 you'll be able to get it in the store, less the subscription stuff, so without the cool pin. But you can subscribe to 007 still, so that you get the exclusive in that one. Then I did a bunch of game stuff. I did the Atari joystick where I put Bluetooth in there to use this joystick as an iOS controller. Got a mystery box using all these cool Neo Matrix display. Argy-Boy hack. I put a big joystick and buttons on Argy-Boy. My Chill Drinky Bot. Clockwork goggles. There's my great-great-grandfather as the haunted portrait that I built using a Raspberry Pi. That was a Raspberry Pi from, it was Pi Zero from the AdaBox 05. Mystery boxes galore. My little clock that I still use today. NeoPixel, Pixie Dust, the My Mini Race Car, remote effects trigger box, coffee detonator. I think this was all in the past year. Jeez Louise. All right, and my Ninja Timer. We'll stop there. So it's been an amazing year of building fun stuff with you guys. So I got to thank you so much. And let's switch over to the chat over here. I need more than an hour for the recap. Yes, that was the very fast version of the recap. So did a lot of stuff, built a lot of fun things. Thank you all so much for supporting us by supporting Adafruit and shopping at Adafruit for all your stuff, as well as supporting us just in the community. It's really fantastic the way people share and show and tell and are part of these live streams and chats as we go through this adventure together. So I'm not going to be the philosopher king like PT, but I will thank you all so much for this great last year that we've had. It's been really a lot of fun. Oh look, I'm showing you YouTube. That's Inception. I'm sorry. All right, so I don't think I'll be doing another live stream until after the new year, but there's a very small chance that I will pop in to show something, but probably not. We're mostly taking off for a little bit here, but watch the social media, watch the Adafruit blog to see what people are up to. We'll probably be posting interesting things as we go. And that's me signing out, so I'm going to put the camera back on the AT-AT over here. And let's play a sound. Bang, bang. All right, that's me signing out. Thanks, everyone, and I will see you in the new year.